condolences to the family. Also, Dr. Keramati, Mr. Keramati, condolences to all of you. Your daughter, your son, Majid, inshallah. I have Brother Karim Dawah here.
Good morning.
To
My condolences.
require the prayers, inshallah. And after that, we'll proceed to the cemetery, inshallah.
Good morning, my deepest condolences to the family. I don't know the deceased, but I can tell you he's a very special person because of all the love that you guys are showing to him. And not only that, Brother Mehdi took care of the funeral. That in itself is a blessing. I'm sure Dr. Akbar had touched a lot of lives in his lifetime. At work, they always tell us, what is the legacy that you want to leave? Right? And I think that's the humanity. He was such a humane person that he touched a lot of lives, and I'm sure he saved a lot of lives. So, inshallah, we'll say a little prayer. It's a funeral prayer. It's going to be in Arabic. Basically, it's a supplication on his soul for God to have mercy on him, and inshallah grant him paradise. It's short, it's not lengthy. We can line up, everybody can line up behind us. If you can't speak Arabic, you can say whatever prayer you want for his soul, so God can have mercy on him. We can proceed. So the prayer is basically in Arabic. We'll say 5 times Allahu Akbar or Takbirah. And basically the first one will praise our Lord, will praise Allah for everything He gives us, for the blessings. The second will praise the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The third we'll say some prayers for all who are deceased from our families and anyone who preceded us. And the fourth one will be specific prayers for the deceased. And then we'll say the fifth one, and then we can adjourn. And it's going to take a few minutes. And again, if you cannot follow in Arabic, it's quite fine. You can just say whatever prayer you want. الصلاة 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 الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وارحم محمدا وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين والشهداء والصديقين وجميع عباد الله الصالحين الله أكبر اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير الله أكبر اللهم إن هذا المسجى قدامنا عبدك وابن عبدك وابن أمتك نزل بك وأنت خير منزول به اللهم إنا لا نعلم منه إلا خيرا وأنت أعلم به منا اللهم إن كان محسنا فزد في إحسانه اللهم إن كان محسنا فزد في إحسانه اللهم إن كان محسنا فزد في إحسانه، وإن كان مسيئا فتجاوز عن سيئاته واغفر له. اللهم اجعله عندك في أعلى عليين، اللهم اجعله عندك في أعلى عليين، واخلف على أهله في الغابرين، وارحمه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. صلى على محمد. So that concludes our prayer. May Allah grant him paradise. May Allah have mercy on him. May Allah grant the family patience. I know these are difficult times. Anytime you lose a parent or a member of your family, you lose part of you. I remember when my father passed away years ago. Your life is not the same. But what we can do is we can keep his legacy alive. I'm sure he had tremendous things that he has done for people in his life. Charity, whatever else he has done. Let's keep that legacy going in his name. Even the tiniest prayer is beneficial. Thank you so much, and my deepest condolences.
You can please have proceed if the family wants to say a few words or so, and then from there we proceed to the second
I think everybody here knows who I am, but and I am my dad. When my dad was sorry. When my dad was first diagnosed with dementia, I became overwhelmed with the fear of the progression of the disease and what that would mean for him and our family. I couldn't imagine my father, who was still one of the brightest and most compassionate people I've ever known, to literally lose his mind, the organ that he had built his career and our family's lives on. As daunting as the diagnosis was, I decided to start a mental catalog of all of the special moments we shared together and advice he had given me over the years. My memories range from the more personal things we shared. My dad had a very competitive spirit, and that was something we connected on. Throughout my childhood, anytime there was a school competition, he would grill me with spelling words, multiplication tables, or other trivia with the goal of being number one or best. Calling him to tell him I was a 6th grade spelling bee champ is still to this day one of the highlights of my life. And if you know my dad, he would still talk about it too. To memories of our life as a family of 5. Most Sunday mornings, my dad would make us eggs for breakfast and recount tales of his youth and journey to become a doctor while we all rolled our eyes. The phrase, I'm sure my brother and sister might mention this as well, "You can never work too hard," was thrown around frequently at our breakfast table. To memories of the love that he had for my mom, my dad lit up when my mom was in the room and she was his world. Even though they worked together, he would call my mom countless times during the day to catch up. She was always his biggest source of strength and support. Her love and devotion and care for my dad over these last 10 years, while still being there for her children and grandchildren, has been nothing short of awe-inspiring. While my dad's illness was challenging, especially on my mom, these are the memories and countless others I will take with me from my time with my dad. And what I most would like to say to my dad today is thank you. Thank you for believing in your family fiercely. Thank you for showering us with constant love and affection. And thank you for not shielding us from your failures and encouraging us to face the obstacles head on. I love you very much, and I promise that your legacy will live on with your children and grandchildren.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, thank you all for being here today and sharing our grief for the passing of my father, but also in the celebration of his life. He was truly a great person, and today represents an even sadder sentiment in that it is also the exact 23rd anniversary of my dad's father's passing. As a physician and surgeon, my father was devoted and dedicated to his patients. As a man, my father was devoted and dedicated to his family. His life was always about his children and grandchildren. Even in his last days, he would whisper a response to us with Junababa or Azizababa. My eyes. You will always be the best dad. I have a special bond with my father. One of my favorite pictures with him sits on my nightstand. It's a picture of him placing my doctoral hood on my shoulders the day I graduated from medical school. It was a proud occasion for me, and I know it was an especially proud one for him too. In many ways, I have tried to mirror my life after his and feel I share so many similarities with him. He's truly been my inspiration. I was fortunate and blessed to be taught numerous life lessons from both of my parents. However, one of the most important principles my father always specifically taught and reinforced to my sisters and myself was the value of hard work and persistence. No one can ever deny the commitment and efforts he put towards his work. His passion to help and treat his patients was second to none. At home, we would oftentimes joke that my dad was more worried about his patients than he was for us. He would leave early in the morning and come home late in the evenings. And only my mom knows better than we do how many times he left in the middle of the night for emergencies. I remember being a surgical resident talking to my dad about my work and exhaustion. Perhaps my training was not as grueling as his, but I would still often spend 80 or 90 hours a week in the hospital. I always hoped to get some sympathy from him, but it was always the opposite. It wasn't that my dad didn't have concerns about my feelings, but he viewed it more as the personal sacrifice needed to have the privilege to practice our craft. My father didn't always come out and directly tell you his opinion. Sometimes he felt it was important for you to figure out what he was trying to say and have your own aha moment. I think that's why he always liked to let his kids and friends beat him at games, especially backgammon. My father enjoyed his successes through his children and his family, and he never forgot about his failures. Struggle and failure eventually are a part of everyone's life, but it is also your teacher for your success. How you handle and deal with it is what my father wanted us to know. One of his favorite stories always started with, out of the 10,000 students in Iran taking the medical entrance exam, I was number 40. As kids, perhaps we may have rolled our eyes in our minds without actually ever rolling our eyes to him, because we had heard the story so much. The first time he took the test, he wasn't successful. But he dedicated the next year to studying. A year where he refrained from going to the cinema with his friends, or even home for the Nowruz holiday. A year that he sacrificed so that he could matriculate to medical school and fulfill his dreams of becoming a physician. He taught us that our failures are the drive and motivation to achieve our goals, and that no one can take those goals away from you except yourself. My parents and Ozzy know that I've had my own difficulties for more than a decade. One of my happiest life moments came just a few months ago. I finally told my father I did it. The thing I had worked so hard for finally was successful. Today, I would give anything to hear his voice and share his stories one more time. Dad, I will forever have a hole in my heart with your absence. I will never forget the love you showed me and the opportunities you provided me for my life. I hope and pray that I can now do the same for my children. I love you, Dad.
Thank you all for coming today to honor my dad. This is undoubtedly the most emotional day for our family. I know we all feel a deep sense of sadness. It's overwhelming. But I also feel grateful, lucky, thankful. I'm thankful my dad is at peace. I'm thankful that the last years of his life and his disease are not emblematic of who he was. Everyone in this room knows my dad. When my dad walked into a room, he didn't work the room, but you felt his warmth. My dad didn't use charm. He just had his own charisma. My dad was kind and compassionate. My dad would tell stories that I miss listening to, and I miss telling him my stories. It's not a secret that my dad loved to work, but my dad didn't fill hours in a day. My dad had a calling for medicine. It was his passion. He would say, every Friday, people in the hospital tell me Happy Friday, and I don't understand. He couldn't understand, or he didn't want a break from something that gave him such deep meaning, such deep purpose. It was inspiring to watch that as a child, but more so as an adult. He relished in his success as much as his failures. He never shied away from his falls. I am thankful that his death does not mean an end to the lessons that he taught us. It's not an end to the way he shapes our lives. That continues in the way we live and the way we raise our children. My dad undoubtedly loved me and my sister and my brother, but there was no Akbar without Mary. He adored my mom. And today is a day to honor my dad, but a day to acknowledge the deep sacrifices my mom made in caring for my dad, not just these last years, but their entire marriage. My mom is a wonderful example of a selfless and loving spouse. And in acknowledging my dad's life, I know he would want us all to acknowledge her. We love you, Mom. Thank you.